Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to teach you how to fold these linked squares using the chiaroscuro technique. This is part of a whole series of videos I have using this technique. I'll link to the playlist with all my chiaroscuro videos down below in the description. But I'll be showing you how to fold this one that has two squares linked together. I'll actually be showing two different ways to fold this one. The first way is by folding the full grid first, which ends up with a lot of unnecessary creases, but it's a lot easier to teach. The second way has a lot less unused creases, but it's a little bit more difficult. I'll also have the crease pattern for 3 squares linked together down in the description. Once you've folded the 2 squares, hopefully you'll have all the skills you need to be able to fold this one just using the crease pattern. Now, I originally saw the idea for these posted on Flickr by Chapman-Bell. I'll link to that down below. I'm not sure if he was the first person to fold linked squares like this, but he was the first one that I could find. His original was a little bit different than the one I'm teaching because he used a 30 by 30 diagonal grid, which is a bit more difficult to fold. That's why I adjusted it so it would fit onto a 32 by 32 diagonal grid, because that's a lot easier to fold. And the 3 linked squares is his design. I have a link to his original fold down below, which you could just fold it from that picture, but I drew up a crease pattern just to make it a little bit easier for you. After that, I encourage you to come up with your own. At the end of the video, I'll show a few designs that I came up with, but there's endless possibilities for you to be able to create your own. Also down in the description, I'll have the history of this technique, as well as links to the work of Benjamin Parker and Andrea Russo, who pioneered this technique, so you can look over those for some inspiration. Now, if you want to see more videos using this technique, give this video a thumbs up or leave a comment below. Also, I do post new origami videos every single week, so make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any. But let's get down to folding. So I'm going to be starting with a 32 by 32 diagonal grid. So I've divided each of these diagonals into 32 equal parts. If you don't know how to do that, go watch one of my previous chiaroscuro videos. I walk through that in the beginning of my previous videos, so I'm going to just skip that for this one, and we'll start from the grid pre-folded. Now we need to put in place the creases for each of these squares. We're going to start with one square. We're going to fold the outer square, and then we'll fold the inner square, and then we'll do the same thing for the other square, and then after that we can collapse everything. We're just going to be doing those pre-creasing steps right now. I'm actually going to do this from the white side because I'll be drawing in as we go. So this first crease is going to start 4 creases from this corner. And if we run down right along the diagonal, just going down 4 creases, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to start from this point. So that intersection is right along the diagonal. And then it's where the 4th crease intersects with that diagonal. And we're going to start from that crease. And then we're going to fold down through 8 crease intersections, stopping on the 8th crease intersection. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we started right from this point up here, and then it ran down through 8 creases, stopping on the 8th intersection. Now we're going to do the same thing running out this way, running through 8 intersections again. Then we're going to start from this point and we're going to fold directly down, and it's going to run down all the way through 8 intersections again, which will end up right on the diagonal. Then to complete the square, we're going to fold between these 2 points. Now we have the outer square folded, and we need to fold the inner square. So this one's going to start 2 creases away from this upper right corner. So we go 1, 2. And then it's going to run directly down from that point and stop 2 creases from the bottom right corner. Then we just need to complete that square, so we need to make 3 more creases. Just connecting each of these points. Now we have the pre-creasing for one of our squares complete, and we need to do all of those same steps on the bottom left. You can see what that ends up looking like. So we're going to start with this outer square. Again, we're going to start 4 creases from the bottom left. Then we need to extend that out 8 creases. Then we'll extend that up 8 creases. Then we'll go from this point and extend out to the right 8 creases. Now we need to make the creases for the inner square, so just like with the other one, we're going to start 2 creases from this bottom left corner. And then that'll extend up to 2 creases from the top left corner, and then extend out this way, extending up 2 creases from each corner. So we just need to connect each of these dots. So now we have all of our pre-creasing done. And for the next step, we're going to pleat all the way across and then collapse everything. And how this works is each time one of these pleats intersects with the square, it's going to change direction. So if we imagine this pleat, once it hits this square, it will change and go out this way. And then when it hits the square again, it will alternate and run this direction. Then it hits another side of the square, so it will go this direction, then it will change direction again and go out there. So that's the basic idea. If you look at the crease pattern that I linked to down in the description, it can make it all a lot more clear and a lot easier to understand exactly how everything works. But we'll start by forming the pleats all the way across. And then we need to start forming some of the pleats that are perpendicular to these ones. Now there's no straightforward way to do this. You just kind of go little by little. But we're going to start with this one that ends right in the corner. Popping this fold up into a mountain fold, and then the ones next to it will be valley folds. And so we see this valley fold that's running through here. When it hits this outside of the square, it needs to change direction till it hits this side, then out that direction. And then we'll look at the next mountain fold. That'll do the same thing, just changing direction when it hits the square. So just watch closely as I start collapsing this. And you just have to go little by little. And once you get a few of these in place, it starts to get a little easier. I actually find this a little bit easier to do from the other side so that the squares are mountain folds, but since I drew in the creases on this side, I thought it'd be easier to show it from this side. So I'll collapse the first square on this side, and then maybe for the second square, I'll flip around to the other side and show you it when the squares are mountain folds. Take a quick pause. You can start to see what's happening here. Now we're just going to collapse the one square, and then once that one's complete, then we can move on to the next square. Just have to be patient here. Just work little by little until you have it all the way done. Now, once you have all of those creases, you should be able to press it all closed like this. And then you see when I open it back up, we have that whole square. I'll show you that from the other side. So next we're going to move on to this other square, and I'm going to collapse this from the other side now. I think it's a little bit easier to do from this side. But we'll start this in the same way as we did from the other square. But things will get a little bit different once we get to the point where it starts to intersect with the other square. But it starts off exactly the same. Now I have most of the creases collapsed, except for the part where it starts to intersect with the other square. I'm going to turn this back around so that you can see where those creases are. So this is the one that's partially collapsed, and then you can see these areas that I haven't completed yet. You just need to go slow. It can be really helpful to look at the crease pattern when you do this part. But I jump to this area right in the middle and get that completed, and then it should look pretty natural where they intersect with each other. But it's just these little spots right here that are a little bit tricky. Again, just look at that crease pattern and it will help out tremendously. And as we collapse this, we're actually not going to be able to get it to lie all the way flat because of these areas right here. We just want to get it close and then just press the creases in together where you can. And then you just pull it all apart a little bit. And then it should be complete. It can take some time to get this intersection just perfect. But I think this one looks pretty good. Now it looks really cool if you only have one light source. You can just rotate it and see how it looks as the shadows change. I hope yours looks awesome. So usually when I fold one of these, I only make the pleats in one direction. It ends up with a lot less extra creases. You can see here I just made the pleats running this direction, and then fold each of these squares and then just pinch the creases that go perpendicular to the long pleats. So you can see it ends up with a lot less extra creases. There's still some, but they're a lot less noticeable than the other way where you make the full grid. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'll be fast forwarding a lot through this one though. But I start by making just a light crease on one of the diagonals. This is just so we have it for reference. And then crease firmly along the other diagonal. And then we just divide this diagonal into 32 equal parts. And next I'll make the pre-creases for the square just like before, but this time we don't have the other diagonals for reference. But just like before, we'll start 4 creases from the corner. And then you just have to try to make this as straight as possible. You just make sure these edges line up. And then make sure they line up on the other side. And then crease across, running through 8 creases. And when you're trying to keep that line straight, you're actually folding the corner up to the 4th crease. So it should line up right with that 4th crease, and then it does the same thing on the other side. And then when you have those both lined up, you can crease down between those 8 creases that we need. But that'll help to keep it a bit straighter. Then we do the same thing over here. So you get the picture. You just continue pre-creasing both of those squares. Now both of the squares are pre-creased, and we need to make the creases that run perpendicular to the pleats that we have. So they'll be running through the inside of the square and connecting the points where these pleats intersect with the square. So let's look at this up close. If you look at the crease pattern that I posted down in the description, that can definitely help guide you through these creases. But essentially what we're doing is from this side, and when we're forming these as mountain folds. So if we see this mountain fold right here, runs down this way and intersects with the square. So it will be changing direction until it runs out to this mountain fold. So I just do this in the air, connecting these intersections. And from this side, I do just all of the mountain folds. So I'm going to be going every other crease, and then I'll flip it over and do the rest of the creases from the other side so I can continue doing them as mountain folds. But I showed you that crease there. And so we're going to move on to the next mountain fold, which is this pleat. And then it's going to start from where that one intersects with the square, and then run out to the other mountain fold that intersects with the square from the other side. And then we just need to do that all the way around the square. Now I have all of the creases formed that will be mountain folds from this side. So I can turn the paper over and do the same thing on this side, but making mountain folds from this side of the paper. Now we're completely done with pre-creasing. So we can start the collapse. We're going to form all of these pleats all the way across. And then we'll start to collapse one of the squares. The collapsing process is just like it was when we had the entire grid, but it's actually a little bit easier since we don't have all those extra creases. Again, you just work really slowly and pop through those creases. Just a little bit at a time. Now, I know it's a bit more difficult to do that way, but I hope you were able to do it, and I hope yours looks awesome. Now you can try to create your own. You can try to link up squares in any number of ways. You can use 3, 4, 5, as many squares as you'd like. You can make them thicker than these squares. You can make them different sizes from each other. There's a ton of possibilities. Definitely explore and try to come up with something of your own. I hope you have a lot of fun with this one. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and then leave a comment down below. Also, I do post new origami videos every single week, so make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.